The Clean Power Hour is brought to you by CPS America, the maker of North America's #1 three-phase string inverter, with over 6 gigawatts shipped in the U.S. The CPS America product lineup includes three-phase string inverters ranging from 25 to 275 kW. Their flagship inverter, the CPS 250-275, is designed to work with solar plants ranging from 2 megawatts to 2 gigawatts. The 250-275 pairs well with CPS America's exceptional data communication, controls, and energy storage solutions. Go to chintpowersystems.com to find out more.
And I think you allowing me to be on your podcast gives me an opportunity to talk. And like things are popping in my head sometimes that, maybe they wouldn't if you didn't ask me the question. But did I exceed my expectations? In some cases, yes. In other cases, maybe not. But that's for me to continue to work to try to get better.
Are you speeding the energy transition? Here at the Clean Power Hour, our hosts Tim Montague and John Weaver bring you the best in solar, batteries, and clean technologies every week. Want to go deeper into decarbonization? We do too. We're here to help you understand and command the commercial, residential, and utility solar, wind, and storage industries. So let's get to it. Together we can speed the energy transition.
Today on the Clean Power Hour, something a little different. My guest today is Dr. Barry Davis. He is a leadership consultant and head of the baseball team at Rider University in New Jersey, the Rider Broncs. Welcome to the show, Dr. Barry Davis.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you on the show. You and I got to know each other through our mutual work with CPS America, the global manufacturer of three-phase string inverters, the leading manufacturer of three-phase string inverters here in the United States. But Barry, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and how you got so interested in leadership.
Well, leadership to me was something that I never really thought of as a coach, as a baseball coach, when I first began coaching as a head coach in 1990, 35 years ago. I never really thought of myself as a leader. I thought of myself as a coach, not really understanding that coaching is leadership. I was in charge, but I didn't really think of it that way. And then as the years progressed, decade after decade, I started to take an interest in determining how and why certain people are successful in athletics where other people are not. And it turned out that leadership, setting the example, being the person that is going to show the way, have the influence, was the most important thing about, the position. Leadership became more of a more important thing than actual strategy, X's and O's, and teaching concepts about the sport. It became more of influence and setting the example and doing the right thing in front of your peers, in front of your team.
I think one of the things that we're immediately faced with in business, in life, in sports, of course, is that there's ourselves, as individuals. We're very conscious of being individuals, and then we are part of a larger group, a team, call it, whether that's a sales team or a marketing team or just the company being the team, right? And there's a both and here. There's the individual's performance, but also the performance of the team. How do you tease those apart or distinguish those?
Well, as a member of a group, I mean, I'm responsible for the baseball team, and I'm responsible for, let's say 28 baseball players that are all different and all have different goals and all have different ideas and all have different skill levels. But the idea with the collective is to make sure that we're all working towards the same goal, the same vision. And it is as simple as having a great practice on a Monday and then following up with another practice on a Tuesday. And then individually, each individual has strengths and weaknesses that we identify that we have to work with. And there's groups, there's positions that you have to work with them in that particular area. So it's a difficult and complex thing where there's constant managing of different situations that come up. I mean, and life gets in the way, but as a group and as the leader, my goal is to make sure that when they get to the field or when they get to the meeting or wherever we're meeting at or in the weight room, that they feel good about what they're doing and that everything they're doing is working towards that goal or that vision that we've set at the beginning of the year.
You said something in the pre-show that is quite striking, and that is that the individual is the culture. I've gotten to know a company through my work with CPS that is very focused on culture, and it really is striking how CPS has created a culture of customer service, for example. How do you teach people to create a culture?
Well, again, very difficult. You start off by, trying to define what that is. And it to me, in simple terms, is that we're all thinking alike. We're all thinking alike. We're all geared and have the same focus on what we're supposed to do. Now, there's standards within that culture that require people to handle their responsibilities. I mean, I don't have to know exactly what they're doing at CPS in terms of the technical and the strategic part of the business. But each person knows their responsibilities. And I think it's important, one, to be able to execute those responsibilities at a high level. Two, there has to be a high level of communication where people are constantly talking. The people at the top need to let the people at the bottom do a lot of the talking. You need to, it's a bottom up type of organization where people have a voice and have a say. And that certainly is an example setter throughout. It permeates throughout the organization. Everything that you do, is it geared towards meeting the goal? And I think the culture itself, the growth mindset is also a part of that, where we're always constantly learning and we're always trying to strive to be better. All of this is a day-to-day communicate, set the example, ask questions, ask what do you think. So everybody's involved in the process of being successful. And I think that's a good start there. Feeling the good about what you do. And I think that, if everybody across the board is doing that, certainly not everybody fits. So you got to, sometimes, you have to eliminate and move people around to get the right people in there that have an agenda that's geared towards the collective and geared towards the goal of the organization. And I think that's important. People that have their own agenda certainly work against the culture, but the culture is established with a vision and then getting the right people, putting them in the right environment, and then working towards that goal.
In terms of creating a growth culture, I learned a metaphor 20 years ago that there are basically three types of people. There are ones, twos, and threes. The ones get it. The twos will get it with some education, and the threes are never going to get it. Does that resonate at all when you think about getting the right people on the bus and having the right raw material to build a team from?
Well, I've been, like I said, 35 years of dealing with young people ages 18 to 22. Some of the level threes that you're talking about that never get it, those are you can get those usually pretty quickly. I mean, we can pick those guys up. I coach men, so I mean, I see them early enough, and you can tell by their habits and the way they go about doing things, by their actions, that they're either selfish or they're not bought into what we are doing. Maybe things that happened to them in the past have developed a habit where it's tough for them to break. The twos, you can see there is some potential there, and you're just going to have to work a little harder. Maybe they don't have a good work ethic. Maybe they're not as competitive as you want them to be. Maybe their persistence level is low. Maybe they're not a team-oriented person. They tend to go off on their own and do their own thing. But you see potential, you see talent, you see skill, and then with effort from your end to try to develop them, to get them on the right path, you can certainly get the number twos on in the direction that you want them to go. Now, the ones, which I mean, I have one player on my team out of 28. Now, I'm not exaggerating. I have one that will go through a wall for you, that will lead, that will be vocal, that will demonstrate. I mean, he's just one of a kind. And then you have the rest of them. You're just going to have to make them that way. And most of the guys we get are twos. Mm-hmm. Most of the people I have are twos. Not sure. The threes. We usually tend to move them out at some point, unless they make a big change. Very few ones. But the goal, obviously, the more ones and twos you have, if your message is clear and you're doing the right thing and you give them opportunities to develop and fail. And then, of course, you correct them when they make those mistakes, and you certainly have their backs. You can build an organization that way. Ones and twos, obviously, we want to keep. The threes we want to move from and replace them with ones and twos. But ones are hard. Twos are mostly what I've been dealing with.
Yeah. And so one of the great challenges in life, in business, in sports is that you're on a journey. And that journey includes winning and losing. And it's not going to be all one or the other. And hopefully there is a trajectory, right, where you're building something that is achieving some longer-term greater success over time. But you have to take your knocks, you have to roll with the punches, so to speak, along the way. What is your philosophy about this phenomenon, that things ebb and flow, and how do you get people to see through that mist, so to speak, those short-term highs and lows to that longer-term greater good?
Well, one of the key words you said there is time, and time is most things that what would I say? Most goals or most great accomplishments, it takes a lot of time to get there, and it's difficult for some people in today's world, because they want gratification now. Mm-hmm. And in athletics, winning it's a zero-sum game. You either win or you lose. And then we take the approach, or I try to take the approach now, and I've probably done it my whole life, is when you lose or when you're unsuccessful, one, why were we unsuccessful? What things did we do that we didn't do well that we can correct? Because there's always room for improvement. And every time we lose or we fail or we don't succeed, however you want to determine it or define or describe it, you learn from that. I mean, a lot of times winning doesn't teach as well. And winning doesn't usually teach you as much as losing does. So as as a coach, a lot of times when we win a game or we're successful, we still pick on things that we can improve on to continue to get better and better and better. Because you're never going to be perfect. It's not going to happen. So understanding that, but working towards perfection, you're going to gain excellence along the way. And I think that's one of the lessons that we try to teach our people is like, look, hey, you're 0 for 5 today. You didn't swing the bat well, but here's some things that I think we need to improve on. So let's go work on that tomorrow. Let's go get in early and do some extra things. So I'm sure in business there's a concept, there's an idea, there's a way of doing things, and it just doesn't work. I mean, you can go all the way back to the new Coke. I always remember that as a kid when they came out with the new Coke, it failed miserably.
Right.
So the leaders basically got it off the shelf, and then it became a Coke Classic, which actually in turn ended up being better in the long run. So sometimes failure and making big mistakes can certainly open the door to new ideas and better things. So losing or failing is a lot of times a good thing. So just don't want to be consistent doing it in athletics. W's and L's are basically what determine whether we're going to be successful or not. But losses do teach.
So let's talk more about culture, because it's so often very nebulous. Every company has a culture, whether they are explicit about creating it or not, right? It is an emergent phenomenon of the sum of all the people and all those interactions that the people have with each other and their customers, right? And their suppliers, et cetera. And so I'm just curious, when you think about, first of all, what is the North Star in the world of creating a winning culture? And then how do you go from A to B to C, C being your ultimate destination of a very high performing culture? Tell us a little more about that.
Well, I think you're going in with a clean slate, with a new attitude and the things that you believe in and how you talk and how you go about your business. In our case, it's right up front. We have a standard. These are the goals and standards that we're going to live by. As much as simple as I can make it for us would be, one of the things when you have meetings or you're there, this is when the meeting begins. Like as a young coach or a young leader, I would say, okay, practice is at 8, but now we don't say that because everybody says, it's kind of around 8. So one of the first things that we would teach is that how important it is to be on time. Be on time, be early, be there. The meeting starts at 8:02. That means at 8:02, the meeting starts. That is something as simple as you can get. We're going to start at this time, and this is when I need you full speed. And this is when I need you to be at your best. Just that alone, the confidence that you display, the communication that you display with your people, and you're constantly there setting the example of doing the right thing. And I think one of the things that I did not realize as a young coach, even though we were winning, is that a lot of the things that we were doing well, we weren't even paying attention to. If someone did not go 100%, we would certainly, make them aware that that's not the level that we want, or that's not the speed that we need you to be playing at. And of course, you're setting the example, like I've said numerous times here today, and I think that's important. But the culture is built through consistency. It's built through habits of excellence, and each individual person has to establish those within themselves that they're going to be able to execute those habits in front of people and have all of the qualities in terms of listening, in terms of being visible and being present and being ready to go at that particular time. All of these things are chopped up and sort of added together. And then, like you said, the total is greater than the sum of its parts, which is very difficult to do. But a lot of times in a group, if we can get our 9 players to play like 10 or 11, I'm going to beat your 9. So I'm trying to get more out of 2 people. 2 play like 3. 3 play like 4, 5 like 6, so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things I said to CPS at one time was that, 2 is better than 1 when 2 can play as 1, or act as 1, or think as 1. Mm-hmm. So we're all kind of pulling in the same direction. And I think that is the key. Habits, consistency, work ethic, goals, being present, all of those are factors.
The Clean Power Hour is brought to you by CPS America, the maker of North America's #1 3-phase string inverter, with over 6 gigawatts shipped in the U.S. The CPS America product lineup includes 3-phase string inverters ranging from 25 to 275 kW. Their flagship inverter, the CPS 250-275, is designed to work with solar plants ranging from 2 megawatts to 2 gigawatts. The 250-275 pairs well with CPS America's exceptional data communication, controls, and energy storage solutions. Go to chintpowersystems.com to find out more. There's a lot to unpack there, and I am curious, when you think of the world at large, and this journey, we're all on a journey. We're all part of a team, as we said early on. And some people have the grit to ride through the ups and downs, and some people don't. And they're not going to be successful in the long term if they don't, or they will jump ship and cycle through some other team. But I guess I'm very curious also about the role of leaders in building a team. Obviously, you're a head coach and you play that role. We have company heads, Brian Wagner, president of CPS America. And then there are individual teams within the greater team and leaders of those teams. But what are the qualities, I guess, that leaders need to bring out the best in their team?
I would say that the word that comes to mind for me is they have a passion for what they do. I mean, it's very evident, I believe, when I meet with my guys or when I'm overseeing anything, that I am excited about being there. I'm excited about what we're doing. I have a passion for it. I love it. I love to be on the field. I love to be in the competitive situation that we're in. It's because life's competitive. You're always trying to beat the other person. I mean, I know it sounds probably elementary, but I mean, there's always a competition. There's always competition. If we're working today and our opponents, are they working harder than we are? So every time that you think that you're working hard, you need to work a little harder because there's somebody out there again that's working against you. But I think the passion that I've had for what I'm doing, I think that carries into and carries over and influences other people to have that same passion. And that's what we're trying to actually make them, be better, by, I'm excited when I get to practice. I'm excited when I is sometimes you don't feel like it, but you work through that, because you're setting the example as the leader. And I think it's being excited about what our goals are, being excited about it simply is just today. I'm excited about being on the podcast. I'm excited about talking about, success, but having a passion is certainly one of the first things that I think becomes noticeable to other people when you see someone that has that, and it's infecting, and it can be infectious, and can get you to play and get you to perform and get you to do things at a higher level because you're excited just like your leaders are.
So is leadership something that can be learned, or is it something more indigenous?
Well, it's definitely something that can be learned, because I would go back to Pat Williams, the former who just passed a couple weeks ago. He was the former president and VP of the Orlando Magic. He said, well, it has to be learned because there's so many. How many books are there on leadership? How many seminars are there on leadership? How many podcasts are there on leadership? So if we can just read and study and research leadership, that's how you learn how to become a leader. So you can teach yourself in a lot of leadership skills. Now, I will say that there are some innate skills and abilities that people have that are easily brought out. Whereas, like for me, I could never speak in front of a group growing up. It took years of practice, and it started in college of just getting up in front of people and talking. So I learned to relax and to be able to get comfortable in front of other people, which for years I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. But again, it's a confidence thing. And I taught myself and I got better at it and better at it. And the more I do it, the better I get. And I still have a long ways to go to be able to reach the goal that I want, to be able to give that perfect speech, to give that, again, going back to perfection, give that speech of excellence where people can say, hey, that was a really a damn good speech. And I'm not there yet. But the fear of talking, I've taught myself how to be able to get up in front of people and talk. And I do it every day with the baseball team. So it has become sort of a habit now, and it's not a problem. But yes, you can learn leadership skills. And it's up to the leaders to help develop that by giving them opportunities to do that. So I do that subtly, in a practice or in a session or in a game by talking to some of my guys that are who I believe can be leaders. It might be as simple as just taking them to breakfast and talking to them about the importance they have and the role they have on the team. And I need them to be a little bit more vocal. I need you to take, Joe over here, and I need you to work with Joe. I need you to show Joe how it's done. I need you to, at the end of practice, you guys take care of the bullpen, clean it up. I mean, little things like that, so you can get people to go. So you can teach people to lead. And again, going back to the one, if you have the one and the twos, you can do it. The threes are never going to be leaders on your team.
So you put your finger on something I think that's extremely important, and that is communication. If you're going to be an effective leader, or for that matter, an effective team member, I think you have to learn to be a good communicator. And we don't put a lot of value on this explicitly in our educational system. I don't think it is something that we kind of take for granted. And like you, it took me a long, long time to become comfortable speaking in front of groups. But that's a muscle that we could all be practicing from the time we're 10 years old, honestly. And all of us would be much better if it was something that was more ingrained in our culture. So what are the things when you're working with team leaders, though, and helping them become better leaders of their teams? What are some of the other things that you explicitly work on with them to help them raise their game?
Well, I think one of the things we talked about education as a young person. Can you imagine if we were in middle school or in high school and there was a leadership course, like an actual course on leadership? There was never one like that. Where did you learn those things? And in my case, I never consider myself the smartest guy in the room. So I always was a little shy, a little bashful, a little uncertain of what I would say. Would that be accepted, or was it smart enough? And I think that shelters a lot of people. That put me behind the eight ball, and I had to work through that. And I had to get teachers and educators to help give me confidence to speak in front of people, to say things where even if it wasn't exactly what they wanted, they didn't make me feel like, in just simple terms, I was not smart enough. It was just, unintelligent. And I think one of the things I want my people to do is feel good about what they're doing. So if they make a mistake, I always try to say, look, I've made that mistake more than you've made that. I mean, I've made it even worse. So I get them to kind of feel okay about making the mistake. Now, what are we going to do to improve that? Give me two solutions that you have to solve this problem that we may have. You tell me what you believe we should be doing. And we're not going to get up from the table here, and we're not going to stop talking until you give me some solutions or give me some ideas that I can use. And I'm not being negative. I'm being positive with them. And I think positivity is something that you can do, and getting to know them. What are their values? I think that's something that no one ever asked me. I mean, I've never been brought in, never in my 35 years, or at least the last 20 years where I'm at, and said, okay, what do you need us to do to get you better? Like, what do you need? And we ask that of our players all the time. What do you want me to do? How do you want me to coach you? What do you need me to do to get you to be your best? What are your goals? What are your values? I mean, do you value hard work? Do you value excellence? Do you value trust, honesty, commitment, accountability? I mean, these are all the things that we try to get into, our players, and that we expect them to. And then we also give plenty of examples. I mean, we've sent them podcasts. We sent them like short podcasts, 2 minutes, 3-minute podcasts. Success is a choice. I mean, the Success Hotline. That's a podcast that I recommended to Chimp Power. Hey, it's one day, it's once a day. Listen to it. Not every message may apply to you, but over time you'll get the theme of what he's trying to portray, and that's being excellent and being the best you can be. And I think just the books we read a book as a team. This year's book, I'm giving this guy free advertising. It's called Pound the Stone, and it's a story about a kid who's basically has to work to overcome a failure. And it's just a continuous struggle along the way. And of course, I assume at the end, the stone will break. He will be able to reach his goal, but through all of this adversity. So I think it's just constant teaching, constant, of managing the situation, because every kid's different. But then as the team is, the collective is, do we have a good practice? Do we have a bad practice? What can we do better to improve on it tomorrow? And then get feedback and input from the players. I mean, as simple as a theme T-shirt. Last year, our theme was, we get to, we don't have to. And they came up with that. I didn't. And then they did it. And then we put it on a shirt, and it became them. It was their idea. It was what they decided, not what I decided. And then every time that we weren't showing those types of actions or habits, we would say, hey, this is what you said you wanted. You get to do this. Not everybody, you don't have to come to practice. You don't have to go to the weight room. You don't have to go to class, but you get to. And I think that's one of the things that we've tried to do, is give them ownership of what we're doing.
You've obviously been through many ups and downs in your own coaching career. Do you have any reflections looking back on things that you did right to ride through the low periods and get to the next high?
I think the one word would be reflection. Looking back on the failures and say, okay, how did we get here? And what can we do differently to avoid being where we are now? And that's basically, that's as simple as I can make it. We were struggling in 2018 and 19. What are some things that we need to do to turn this thing around? And then we determined that we needed to invest more money into the scholarships, and we needed to recruit more players. We needed to raise more money so I could hire another coach. We need to take an approach that we're going to get a lot to get a little. Those are just some simple things. But the main thing was that we just looked back and said, okay, this is not working. What we've been doing is not working. And we need to figure that out. And it's simple as, hey, we're going to concentrate on this area of recruiting. And I guess that could be business too. You're selecting players and selecting people for jobs. We decided that we're going to just focus in on this regional area, this area of the East Coast, New Jersey, Eastern PA, for the most part. That's going to be our focus, and that's where we're going to get our talent. So we're really going to focus there. Mm-hmm. But we reflected, what are the problems and what are the solutions? And let's make a sort of a 180. Let's go and do something we haven't done. And not fool ourselves and not pretend like we're doing something right, because we're not, because we're failing. And I think that's where I made some smart moves as the leader, and of course the people that I brought in made me look good by being great at what they did.
I guess that's my last question for you. What are you most proud of in your work as a coach and a mentor, both in athletics and in business?
I'm glad you asked me that, because I'm going through a period now where, I've been through 35 years. Is that enough? Have I given enough to what, to the world in terms of a baseball coach? And I feel like I'm most proud of the longevity, because I set a goal when I was how old was I? 21 years old. I said, I'm going to be a college coach. I'm going to be a college head coach. And I was able to do that. And then I was able to do it for 35 years. And I'm hopeful that I have had an impact on the players that I've coached. I didn't realize maybe I had the impact as a young person that I did, because I didn't understand way back to your first question when we talked about leadership. I really didn't look at myself that way. I was a coach and not really a leader. It's kind of crazy, but I think it's overall, have I done a good job? Have I made every school that I've been at 3? Have I improved that program? Is it better now when I left than it was when I got there? And I think that's a goal for every leader when they take over a program or an organization. Did they improve it? So those are things that I think about a lot, and I hope that I did have a positive impact, and that even going forward, no matter what happens, am I going to have an impact in another area? And I do really enjoy working with Chimp Power. I feel like they've made me better by them giving me the opportunity to try to make them better. And I think they've improved, and it helps me become a better person, a better teacher, a better coach, a better leader, by getting the opportunity to try to get them at the highest level that they can be at. So I think it's a work in progress. It always is. And I think you allow me to be on your podcast gives me an opportunity to talk. And like, things are popping in my head sometimes that, maybe they wouldn't if you didn't ask me the question. But did I exceed my expectations? In some cases, yes. In other cases, maybe not. But that's for me to continue to work to try to get better.
I think that's a good place to end. I want to encourage our listeners to check out all of our content at cleanpowerhour.com. Please give us a rating and a review on Apple or Spotify. That is the best way you can help others find this content. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I love connecting with my listeners. And check out our YouTube channel. All of our content is on YouTube as well. Dr. Davis, how can our listeners find you?
Well, you can find me on my website, drbarrydavis.com. You can look up on Twitter, Barry Davis, at Barry Davis 42, and on LinkedIn, Dr. Barry Davis. So those are 3 ways that you can stay in touch with me on social media. I have my own YouTube channel. You can go to YouTube and just punch in Dr. Barry Davis, and I have what I call a championship minute on a weekly basis, just a quick idea on what champions do and what you should be thinking about. So those are some areas where you can find me.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Barry Davis, head of the Ryder Bronx baseball team. Thanks for coming on the show. I'm Tim Montague. Let's grow solar and storage. The Clean Power Hour is brought to you by CPS America, the maker of North America's #1 3-phase string inverter, with over 6 gigawatts shipped in the U.S. The CPS America product lineup includes 3-phase string inverters ranging from 25 to 275 kW. Their flagship inverter, the CPS 250-275, is designed to work with solar plants ranging from 2 megawatts to 2 gigawatts. The 250-275 pairs well with CPS America's exceptional data communication, controls, and energy storage solutions. Go to chintpowersystems.com to find out more.